Check, check. What's going on out there this fine Tuesday in MECA land? How's everybody doing out there this evening? I'm going to get on here in just a few minutes. Mr. Chris Gordon, Extreme Dueling Demos World Champion from last year. So everybody like it up, share it up. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on the Facebook there, share me around. Going to have Mr. Chris Gordon on this evening. A few quick things I guess I'll go over. Some of the points and stuff we're still working on getting those straightened out from some of the previous shows. What's going on, Mr. Richardson? So we are still working on that. Some of the shows that happened like last year that count towards this year and stuff, we're working on getting those straightened out. If you do have issue with your points or whatever, shoot me a message, even though I am working on it. That way I'll have a reminder and know who needs what. What's going on, Mr. Sullins? Let's see. So as far as the website's concerned, I think it's starting to work, pretty good again, fairly decent. Still a few kinks and things to work back out to get it back to where it was. So just keep bearing with us there for, I don't know, a few more weeks here. And it seems like it's getting a little bit better and a little bit better each week here. So at least we're making some progress finally. What's going on, Mr. Beard, Mrs. Alt, Mr. Alt, Mr. Bodie? What's going on? How y'all doing this evening? We do have an event coming at you this weekend. Hopefully, I only saw one on the event schedule there. So we got Bay City bumping there at Veterans Memorial Park in Bay City, Michigan this weekend. That's going to be a 2X. Mike Smith and the crew will be out there getting you guys together, kicking it off. Supposed to be a multi-org thing. I can't remember off the top of my head who all is going to be out there, but be MECA, and I can't remember if Mr. Mike's on here. He can let you guys know, but it will be a multi-org event there at Veterans Memorial Park in Bay City, Michigan. MECA 2X. Again, Mike Smith and the crew will be out there heading that up for us. Let's see what's going on, Miss Wendy Gordon. What's going on, Mr. Bowser? Yeah, I talked to Shannon about that, Mike, and I think they might have put it under your retail, but I'll end up getting it fixed. If you have to stay on me, but I'll make sure we get it fixed. I know, I think I remember getting a message from you earlier. What's going on, Mr. Rawson? So we're working on getting all that stuff fixed up. I know some of the shows, like I said, like if it's older than 30 days, I can't fix it. The internet guys have to, or I have to put in a new event, basically. So we're working on trying to get that stuff straightened out for you guys. So like I said, just bear with me. But if you do have an issue, make sure you let us know so I can make sure I do get you fixed at least. What's going on, Mr. Meshke? What else? Let's see. The Bay City event this weekend. Yeah, I think that's it. The website, World Finals. I know I've been having folks ask about that. I should have something ready to release to y'all here in the next few days. I was hoping I could do it tonight, but I think I'm still waiting to hammer out a couple of things. I do know that Sound Quality Finals will be there in Birmingham, Alabama, with Iasca, Mascu, Emma, at least for the sound quality part. Looks like I got an email, I think yesterday or the day before, sometime while I was out of town in Alabama. They weren't able to work it out with the venue again this year for sound pressure. So we do have our backup plan, and like I said, I just got to hammer out a few more details here, and I'll have the announcement where World Finals for sound pressure will be. I think it'll be pretty good. It'll be a pretty good spot, I think, for a lot of you folks. So um, I'm kind of excited. So hopefully you guys will be too when we get the information out here. But just give me a few more days here to make sure I got everything squared away, because I don't want to end up in the boat I was in a couple years back where they changed my dates and all that stuff on me. So I got to hammer out the fine print and get that going. What's going on, Miss Melinda? So you should be seeing World Finals information here soon. And I think with all of that said, we'll get Mr. Gordon on here. Those of you that don't know, he's our Extreme Dueling Demos World Champion last year. He also does some amplifier things and stuff. So should be a pretty good little conversation. If you have questions, make sure you ask them. And let's see here. I'm going to put that off. And here comes Mr. Chris. All right, Chris,
What's
you're
up?
on live. What's going on, Mr. Chad? Uh, I shout people out in the chat box as they come in sometimes. So if if I get in your way, you can slap me. But how
No, no, good,
you doing
good.
this evening, man?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Like I say, stay pretty busy. Glad I could get on here. I was wondering when somebody was going to pick me, so I figured it was coming around. Uh,
Oh
and
yeah,
other than that, just doing my thing with the amps. So
I hear that. So I guess we'll just kind of get it going like I do with everybody else. I got my, I don't know, my 5 or 6 little general questions here. I kind of ask everybody, try to, get to know you, know where you came from and stuff like that. So usually my first question's kind of like, you know, what got you, or how did you get involved in car audio?
Uh, it's like all of us, young and throw some subs, some amps in the vehicle and try to get as loud as you can. Uh, my aunt still blames me, saying I got all my cousins into bass and stuff back in the day because I was always the older one. So, she said, "Oh, you had all my windows rattling on my house. I didn't know what it was." And so that kind of died off on me. I guess when I started having the kids and stuff, it wasn't really as big, and never really got big into competing. Um, but always just like to have that little extra bass and whatnot. Back in the day, some good old JL subs and whatever, 1,000 watt amp really, back then was loud. So,
For sure.
of course, I'm pretty old, so some of these guys, these young guys, probably don't know nothing about that. But and then I got into riding Harleys and stuff, and I changed up the stereo system on that, and I was like, man, I need to add something to my truck, like just wasn't good enough. And that's any bass head. It's never enough. You always want to add more.
Oh
So
yeah,
with that, I was like, I got some blown amps sitting around, and I'm like, I'm gonna learn how to fix this so I can use it again. And that pretty much started the whole amp repair thing,
right.
and still doing it. So it's a
So
fun little hobby.
I guess we're gonna get into the amp stuff for sure. Um, but I want to get through my my little simple stuff first. But we're gonna get into that because I'm sure some of these folks might they might ask you some questions and things like that. So what's going on, Mr. Cinnamore? Mr. Matt Kramer, Mr. Bowser. Anybody I miss? Mr. Shea, Austin, Mark Stinson. How you guys doing this evening? Hopefully, you guys are doing all right. Um, so, I guess my next question is like, I know you said you were into it when you were young, kind of drifted out of it, and then kind of got back into it. And my timelines are a little screwy. So, how long have you been involved in the car audio scene at this point? Uh,
It was like right after COVID.
okay,
We actually when I started to get a little bit better with the amp repair stuff, we started to hit like Slamology and stuff like that. And I just first time I hit Slam, I was hooked. I was like, I'm going to it every year. It's the best thing ever. And we had some buddies that did compete, with MECA, and that's what kind of got me started with MECA. We always went up to sound check, every Sunday, and
right,
and at first I didn't know anybody, so I'd walk past Chad Rawson and all them guys sitting there demoing. Like, man, these builds were on a whole nother level than what I was, ever used to. So,
right,
um, and now with what I know now, it's like, man, them guys loved new guys like me back then because we'd never experienced it, so they love to give those kind of demos. So
for sure,
yeah, and then after just repairing amps, I started to have so many amps and everything built up. I said I got to do something big. Amp guy can't just come out here and be the little guy on the block. So I tried to hang with the big boys, and it puts a hurting on the old wallet when you break some stuff trying to chase people. Uh,
for sure,
Hogan Yusko, me and him had it out at Cass County, and we were real close, and a lot of loud guys out there. Brad Zink, Brad B Craft, them guys all do really good numbers, and I just love to be a part of that. As a competitor, being like I repair amps and stuff like that, I love to see everybody do good.
right.
Even if it does mean they beat me. It's more for being there and being able to be that helping hand. So
Well, that's
keeping
good.
people playing.
I think a lot of us guys that are getting older, that generally ends up being how we feel about it. We want to help and all that good stuff. So it keeps the people involved and helps passing knowledge and stuff like that. And my next
Just
question is usually like, uh, who kind of gave you your inspiration to compete? But I think you kind of already was naming those guys. So, but was
yeah,
there
yeah,
was there anybody in particular that like stood out to you that like motivated you to do something or?
uh, probably my first team. Let's see, Team Hated.
Okay,
And right about when I got into it, a lot of them kind of fell off. And it was like right when I was really starting to get somewhere. And which, it really, um, I still talk to them guys. So I still try to get them to come back, and
right,
they're all just kind of dealing with their own, lives and whatnot at the moment. But, I still grew from there, and I never realized how many people I would meet within MECA or just in the audio scene in general.
right,
Being an amp repair guy, boy, everybody wants to talk, everybody wants to get a hold of you, and it's like, well, man, I can't get anything done if I'm, always chit chatting. So
right,
uh,
for sure.
I stay busy, but I try to give everybody my time. Like I say, I love to help. So and yeah, that's what's fun. If we don't help the new guys or just even help somebody else gain a DB here and there, it's you feel like you're always stuck. So,
For
I
sure.
look at it as I try to do for somebody as I'd hope they do for me. So it's been fun. It's definitely been a lot of fun. Me and Wendy have done a lot of traveling, going to a lot of MECA shows and everything like that, and gets us away, gets us out of the norm. So
That used to be one of my favorite parts about it was, it was almost like you got to go on vacation every weekend.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoy those. Get away and go have some fun for the weekend, and then come back home and do what you got to do through the week. So
What's
or
going
rebuild.
on, Mr. Wallace Murph, Mr. Ken Harrod? How you guys doing? Bodie said he broke you out of your shell.
Yeah, yeah, I can't forget about Bodie. I haven't mentioned his name, but yeah, he's one that's been around. He's helped me get loud and showed me some ropes. So uh, he's definitely been one that's been out there. Him and Hogan and stuff. So and I enjoy their company. We go out to these shows a lot together. So
Heck yeah.
uh, yeah, these guys keep me on my toes.
So, I guess since you've really been back involved again, basically since COVID, you know, was this year your first championship? Do you have any other championships, other organizations, anything like that?
No, I mean, I guess Space Wars for the same thing. Their demo wars. That is something within dueling demos and demo wars that me and Wendy both just we love it. We love to be able to show it out, and I could probably thank Randall Ritchie for that because he's the one that got me this Suburban, and TJ Ivy. I know he's one. Him and Randall and them built that thing, and I
Right.
learned a lot with that build. Um, so my tuning and stuff is something I'm still working on. I'd love to learn as much as I can on that. Um, but yeah, we enjoy it. That's like
Heck yeah.
really get to showcase what you can do with those builds.
Can you see the comments coming in, Chris?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'll hold
I'm
on.
gonna cut myself out of here for just a second. I need to run upstairs for a second, but I'll be back in like 5 minutes, maybe
All right,
less.
I'll keep these guys
Keep,
busy.
keep them busy for me.
I am. Let's see, 48. 48. Everybody started calling me the Silver Fox. I might have to add that in with the amp repair name somehow. Chad Bleak. How old are you? Very old. Man, Chad, that's not nice. Looking forward to seeing that dueling demos build you got going on, though. Yes, Melinda Ross and her build was one that we always loved to sit back and watch. Yes, Dre, I am very young. Silver Fox, not your Ant Man. That's pretty mean, Wendy. You're calling me old. That means you're old too. The Foxy Amp Repair guy. Well, with that one, that might be one of those like, feeling kind of cute. Might fix an amp today. I don't know. Uh, how long have I been working on amps? Probably that COVID era. When we were all home, that was when I got bored, started looking up how to fix some stuff I had sitting around, see if I could make it work. The Watt Wizard. Yeah, that's a good one. Hope Bud's computer don't shut down. Well, it'll be an early night for us, huh? Yeah, yeah. I really, it's like I was telling Bud earlier, I never would have thought I'd be where I'm at with the amps and even competing. It really has blown up and really taken off, and I enjoy it. There's days I complain about it, but what job don't you have those days? So yeah, I think that's kind of an Italian thing for me. Turned silver almost out of high school. So basically, Facebook, is where Facebook Messenger, Facebook is about where a lot of people get a hold of me. Um, I normally try to reply pretty quick. Mainly deal with like Korean and a lot of Terra amps. Um, Try to steer away from the cheap stuff, the China boards. Trash man. Now don't bring that one up. Life alert. Mike Gall gonna need some assistance again, man. Oh man. Yeah, a lot of people ship amps to me. Like Terra amps. If you guys ever have a warranty thing, you can send them direct to me. You can get right with me, and I'll help you get the warranty took care of. So the wife's build, it's slow motion, kind of waiting on warmer weather. We got a lot of stuff coming in here real soon, so hopefully this weather starts getting better and we can get out there and get going on it. Yeah, we're excited to get that one going for sure, and I think we're both ready to kind of see it play, see it do something, and just sit in the driveway. So, yep, we have two daughters. One is 22, the other is 20. That's how we have the one grandbaby. Um, she's our little ham anymore. Uh, she gets older, probably have to do a little power wheels or something for her. So, got to get the family involved. As far as my build goes, yeah, the old bourbon's got its win and probably going to get put on the back burner. I'd love to strip it down, have the body work redone, fix it back up. I did find out I'm not as good at builds
I'm
as I
alive.
am amps. A lot of guys said I should have left the bourbon alone, and I stripped it apart. Thought I could do something better with it, and in the end, it plays. I don't think I'm as happy with it the way it is, but she needs some love and TLC, so it'll be a while before we see it again.
All right. Sorry, I'm back now.
Oh, you're good. They hit me
Uh,
with a lot of questions.
yeah,
Kept me
is you
busy.
getting them answered? Do
Oh
I need
yeah,
do I
yeah.
need to re-ask them? Uh, did you answer the one about how to get a hold of you to fix an amp?
Yeah, yeah. I told a lot of people, mainly, Facebook is the way a lot of people find me. So anywhere Facebook Messenger is about the best way. Um, really try to keep my phone number and stuff kind of more on the private side. So,
Oh
and
man.
I normally am pretty quick to respond to people on like Facebook. So, get to them quick, get them fixed, and get them back playing. That was one of my things is if we had a show coming up, I tried to make sure I kept somebody playing. If they said, I got a show coming this weekend, can you get it done? Boy, I pushed, to try to make it happen. So that's the thing. I love to be able to help and say I helped, keep everybody running in the lanes. So
I
it's a
guess
good feeling.
since we're talking about the amps now, uh, are there specific ones that you work on, or do you work on all of them? Are there certain ones you won't work on?
Uh, Well, I try to stay away from the cheapos. Those ones just give you a headache and a half. I do Terramps warranty service. Well, basically warranty, non-warranty. So they're
Right,
like my big one. But basically, I work on anything Korean. Um, like I say, as far as like the cheap China stuff has just gotten so cheap that just not worth the repair. On a used aspect, by the time they pay for the repair and shipping and everything, they probably could have already bought the amp again. So
right,
um, I think most of us here know that. Everybody tries to run some pretty good equipment it's gonna last, and do them good. So
okay. So basically, you fix whatever they send you, and sometimes it's just not worth it, huh?
well, I try to ask that before they send it.
Okay,
I don't want somebody to ship me an amp I can't fix. And a lot of the older stuff, I may buy an amp that's old just to see, can I restore it. But as far as on a repair scale, I really don't like to get into them. The parts, finding parts, just the fact they're kind of wore out. They've been sitting around somebody's closet forever, collecting dust and all the cleaning, and so I really stick
I got
with.
6 that I need you to fix, but they're old.
Yeah. Well, now somebody did slip a JL 1000 in there on me just recently, and I told him, I said, "Man, normally I don't work on these, but I said you sent it, so I was like, I'll look into it, and if it's not bad, I'd fix it."
Right,
So those were always good amps. I don't mind popping those open just every once in a while. I don't want to be like bombarded with everybody's old stuff, but yeah, I'm more of a new tech. Like I'm more with all the newer stuff. So
okay,
and the newer stuff is so much more easier to repair. They don't take as long. You compared like an SCV 7500 to a Ruthless 8K Salt 8K. I
right.
I can repair the Salt and the Ruthless faster than I can the old SCVs. They just took so
Just
many
because of the
more
part
parts.
availability, or
Yeah, well, just the parts that they were in, that they used and stuff. There was more parts to make them then than now. Now they're able to, that's why amps are getting to be so small. They're being able to do it with stronger parts. Um, and that's always a plus. So
right?
especially on the repair side. And I even say it's even cheaper most of the time on a repair. So, them older amps, they're going to cost you a little bit more.
Oh
Those
well.
those old TFE Amper Audio TFEs and stuff, the big tanks, man, them things are just
Oh well,
so
these
many
ones.
parts for those.
Well, I want to know if you'll fix a Gold Case 150.
Gold Case 150.
It's American bass amp,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's a 1500.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd probably be able to do that. I mean, that's I love sometimes seeing those older amps just because, I love to see their design, how they were made and
they were
stuff
they
like
were
that.
tanks.
I've got some old ones here that I don't think I could ever repair, but they were cool, like the old Xtants, I think is how you say it. Some addictive audios and stuff like that, which those aren't really too old. They're probably within a 10-year frame, maybe. I don't really know, but those were uh, those were what I bought when I first started, and I was just it was a little overwhelming for me.
That's a trick question, Chad.
The best amp on the market is one that never comes to a repair guy. It doesn't need repaired. uh,
That's
you
kind of
know,
like flipping a coin, though, isn't it? I mean, it
yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
it doesn't really matter what brand they are. Some of them break, some of them don't, type
Well,
of thing.
you have the so many people that had a bad experience with them, and then you have so many people that love them, and it's just some amps work better for certain people, and some others don't. I think a lot of the issue today is people don't understand when they need to run, an 8K or even a 5K and up. They try to throw this stuff in their daily on stock electric, and
Right.
stuff's going to burn up, or they don't give it enough room to breathe, and they overheat, and stuff like that. So, uh, some good amps though. Powers, the full bridge. I think those are actually starting to be kind of a big name coming around now.
Yeah, they've
Those
been
are one
around
of the
for a while.
It's been around. If you knew about them, yeah.
Yeah.
They are like one of the stronger full bridge amps out there. And then, of course, you got Ruthless and Crossfire with their BMFs. I think those have very minimal issues, but these newer amps coming out are really, a lot of people are leaning towards those more.
Right.
Uh, I've seen people saying they'd trade their Salt 8 for a Ruthless 10K. So, and it's like Salt 8s were the amps, here a few years back that they were the go to. So,
Right.
um, I like them all. I think, in some form, a lot of amps are really the same. The Korean amps, they're all built from the same build house, probably the same parts, just a little bit different board to fit the case that they use.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, it's hard to say, and I've been a big Crossfire fan myself just because that's what I've been running. And I have the older Crossfire XS16s,
Hmm.
and now they come out with the BMFs, and even the XT is a little bit better amp than the XS, and I keep saying I'm gonna sell mine and try something newer, and then I buy another one to add to my collection. So
Yeah. If it ain't
something
broke,
like
don't
that.
fix it. Right.
Well, I like to buy them broke and then fix them,
Well,
and
there
then
you
I'll stockpile them up, and maybe I'll do a big build one of these days. Hard to say.
What's the
What
amp
amp
that
did I
you dislike?
dislike?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a few of those. Um, let's see, dislike. Man, there's been a few that I've cussed and rant and raved at and said I'm not touching one of these again. But there's probably a handful of those, and I can't really think of the names. I know the cab 45s and stuff were a big seller, but when I had to repair them, I would get mad because of they're a China board, and things could have been done a little bit better, glued down a little better, and a lot of the ones I worked on, I was able to make them last.
Right.
Um, but it was just easier to turn down the repairs. Too many of them had board damage and stuff like that, and I'm not trying to put any brand down at all. So I mean, if they're still selling those, I don't want to
Yeah, I
knock their
figured they'd
brand
give
or
you some of
anything.
those trick questions like that.
Yeah, I asked them if they would sell me boards so I could help, keep their amps running, and they were like,
Right.
"No, just send it to us." So I mean, if they still have them and they need fixed, they can have a new board put in, basically for about the same price as a repair. So that was a plus for those. Um,
So what's the average cost of a repair?
you
Or do you
know,
do you really is
it's
it just vary?
it can be. I always like to break it down, like a power supply side. Now, if we're talking like a Korean amp, 350 to 450, somewhere in there, that's because that's where most of your damage is. It takes the longest to repair. The output side, it can run 200 to 350, somewhere in there. So, and that all depends size of the amp, the parts availability. Um, there was there right after COVID, a couple years in, I couldn't even get the parts for like a lot of your big amps, the DC pit bulls, your Crossfire 16s. So I wouldn't even take them in. I was just
Right.
like, look, I don't have the parts. I can't even, I don't want people's amps just sitting here. If I can't fix it, I want to get it back to them. you know, let them, either find somebody else, or, there's a few people here that I made sure they were all right with it. I was like, look, if you're not on a time limit, this one's kind of being picky. I'll get it, but it might take me a while. So,
Right.
and then there's other people, their amp may be done the same week they bring it to me. Um, so, it's you get the best and the worst. So,
You foresee your prices going up with the tariffs? Somebody asks.
man, me and other techs have talked about it, and I really, I don't try to. I try to really buy in bulk and stuff to where it doesn't really affect me as much. But these tariffs are just it's getting a little out of hand, I guess you could say. So,
Yeah,
um, and a lot of our parts come from overseas, so that doesn't help either.
for
But
sure.
no, I am actually, probably a lot of people would say, is I'm one of the cheaper repair techs out here. Um, and that's I still make sure I make enough and just try to be, helpful. So
Well, that's good.
yeah, yeah.
Miss Wendy asked, "What's your favorite show you've been to?"
Well, I would think she would know that answer.
She probably, she probably does. She's
Slamology.
probably trying to help us out.
Slamology, and the first couple years I used to hate it because I'd have to ask her if she'd stand outside so I could give somebody a demo. I'm sure she kind of got tired of that, and now she knows just as many people as I do. We rent a golf cart. She'll be toting everybody around while I'm doing my thing, giving demos. So, uh,
Heck yeah, that's cool.
like I say, Slam is one of our better shows. That's the big one. That's the one
Right.
we will always try to be ready for.
What's
No,
your favorite
besides
one?
Slam.
Okay.
Oh, she said besides Slam.
Yeah, now he's got to think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like them all. I can't really say, because you go out of state and you really get to see builds you don't see all the time. So you get to meet other people. That's the fun thing to me, out and seeing people's builds. We went to Vegas, for the Vegas show out there, what, a couple months ago now, and you
Right.
know we didn't have our base ride, so you walked around, you got demos from everybody else, and I looked at her and said, "Well, this is great." I said, "I can't break anything this way." You sit back, ask for a demo, and watch them break something. So
There you go.
no, we enjoyed that, and West Coast, man, we've seen a lot of DC, a lot of Ruthless. It was really different. Whereas out this way, you see a lot of Sundown, you see a lot of Terra amps.
Right.
Um, so that was kind of different. That was kind of neat, all in the same. Um,
Yeah, the
yeah,
Terriers seem to be pretty popular, I suppose. But I mean, I like. I don't know. There's all kinds of good ones, but you mentioned the Powerus. I still haven't seen a whole lot of those around, but I've messed with a few of those. They're pretty stout. I, I've been a Brazilian guy for a long time, probably since like maybe 2006 or seven.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, back when not very many people were getting them, and you know, I had the old T like the T 10.9s and the 20.2s uh, that they built for, like, they would do pretty high power at not very high voltages, and I think like the first four or five of them they sent me, I smoked them all, and I send them back, and I was dealing directly with a woman that worked there in Brazil, and she was like, "You got to talk to one of our engineers or something." So I was like, "All right." She put me on the phone with the guy, and he was like, "What are you doing to these things?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, he was like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm SPL competitor, and he's like, all right, well, that's what they're for, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, well, what's your voltage? And I'm like, 15, and he's like, well, what's it fall to? I'm like 14.8, and he's like, no. And, I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, they're designed, these ones are designed basically, back then DB Drag had things where you could only have certain size battery and like one battery and stuff like that. So they were kind of designed to do those powers at like, 10 or 11 volts.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, your voltage is too strong. So, I mean, after he taught me that, and I think I was using a little bit too high of an input voltage too on the RCA. And after he taught me that, I didn't have very much problem with him after that. And I've been using those pretty much ever since. But I mean, I've tried a lot of the other ones, and I always just liked them usually because of price and footprint. But
Oh yeah. Yep.
you
Yep.
know,
Hey, that's I use a lot of them myself. I've been kind of sold on my Crossfire 16Ks for the subs, but I've ran a lot of Terra amps for my mids, and just ran it through a DSP to try to really tune it in better. And I've yet to really just compare a good Class AB. I'm sure there's ways, like SQ guys, they would probably laugh if you tried to use say a Terra amps 4 channel or something. Um,
yeah,
but
the
yeah,
old
that's I think a lot of people, that price point for the power, that's where the money is. So it depends what you need it for. So
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, the end goal or the end use is always a big deal. What's going on, Andy? How you doing? Joe brought up the old school Stetson amps. Those were the first. Those were kind of the first ones that really came around. The old Stetson 7Ks, and we broke a lot of those too.
probably about like the Banda 7Ks and stuff. They seem like they had their big run there back in the day, and
I mean, I don't know if it's still true or whatever, but kind of like when I competed real heavy, I always kind of looked at it like back when I first got into it, a 5 to 8,000 watt amp was a big amp. Um,
yeah,
2-3,000 watt amps were more common, and
yeah,
they were just starting to push those bigger amps. And I feel like when they first start doing the big, like as they get bigger and bigger, the way I've always looked at it is not just because it's kind of new, but like the more power you're trying to make out of something, the more volatile it can be.
you're right.
So
Yeah,
like we always had more problems with the biggest amps that were on the market because of at the end of the day, what a guy like me does with them, you're not supposed to do with them. So, you
we're
know,
we're trying to squeeze every little thing we can out of them. Yep, yep.
and
And
so we
guys,
always had better luck like using multiple smaller amps because they were just harder to break. I don't know if it's because they had perfected the designs of them at that point, and then you moved into the bigger stuff. I don't know. I just know that it seems like the bigger the amp is, the better you got to treat it, or it's gonna not like
yeah,
you.
yeah. No, I learned that myself the hard way. Even as an amp guy, I did the no nos. I took my Crossfire 16Ks, ran them at half ohm, and when I was doing my park and pound, I sent an amp and a couple subs, and
Right.
it was kind of a costly expense, and I learned my lesson, and of course I had to repair it. So that one's been on the back burner. I actually just got it done. It was the one I don't know if you've seen it, but on my Facebook, I cut a big bunch of big holes in it to cut out all the burned areas, and designed a new board to put back in there to give all the parts something to put into to run all the circuits and everything to the traces. So, I was really, in one way, I was down and out about it, but in another way, as a repair guy, I'm like, can I repair this and make it just as good, where it doesn't look all hacked up? And, I love to try to, my whole biggest thing is to try to make it look like I was never in your amp. You know,
Right.
I don't really try to be sloppy or anything, and yeah, you know, I'm just intrigued with it. I love learning new things, and but as far as the competing, I'm very hard on my stuff. I go through a lot of stuff, and I have to repair a lot of my own amps, and most people probably don't know it because I just hurry up and repair it and put it back in. So
Hey,
that's the bonus of being the amp repair guy.
there
So
you go.
uh, who's the gray hair guy on the right? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a nobody. He's a quiet guy.
Nick
Uh,
asked if that crossfire was the most difficult repair you've done.
uh, you know, it gave me a little bit of a hiccup. It probably was the hardest one because it was the first amp I truly cut out like such massive areas and redid it. And other techs have done it, so it's not like I just did anything new. Um, in my eyes, when an amp gets that bad, it's almost time to just say this is a parts board. You know, it's
Right.
time to move on. Sometimes they are salvageable. Other techs, you know, I've seen them do some crazy magic work with these things that uh, makes me feel like I still have a lot to learn. You know, but for the most part, I've done pretty good with what I've done.
I was laughing at Chad.
Oh yeah. Have you ever had a guy bring a lot of times? Man, I've had people argue with me that their amp's broken, you know, and I show them a
I
video of it
promise you there's something wrong with
playing,
that amp. I,
and I'm like, you know, well, it's playing right here, and they're like, well, I guess send it back, you know. So
no, I had that amp in my truck. I thought I broke it.
that
The
was
one,
wild. We hooked that one up, and it worked, and you
that's
know,
what
I
he
was
said. I was like, dude, I swear I was mid burp and it cut out. And I
wow.
couldn't get it to do nothing. I just left out of the lane and I messed with it for a little bit and I was like, man, I broke Chad's amp. And yeah, but I don't know, maybe it was the head unit or something, but I mean, I even pulled the RCAs out of the head unit and was like ding 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 and it wouldn't do nothing. So I thought for sure I messed up the amp somehow, but whatever. I'm happy that I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, we put it on the bench here. It played, and I was actually supposed to use that to help me fix mine, and mine are always on the back burner. So you know, I buy some stuff, and it's like, well, I'll fix it one of these days. And yeah, they tend to sit around a lot longer. So
Oh, Chad said he did it twice though.
what's that? Oh, yeah, I think he did bring me that thing before.
Well, I think
So,
one time it was in his car, it was doing something similar, and then, but I don't know. I, I kind of halfway wonder if it's something to do with vibration or something, but who knows?
yeah, I can't remember. I know we were at a Base Wars show, and I think he was trying to run, and he had like an RCA issue or something going on, and God, I can't remember what he did, but he did get it up, getting it working again. So,
What's your best sound pressure score to date? Your personal?
it was probably my headrest was probably the 161.5, and I
Okay.
think that was Cass County, and Parking Town was shoot. Let's see, mecha wise, it was like a 38, 39. I
Right.
think I was always struggling to hit that 40. I might have hit a 40, I forget. Um, but
I
yeah,
know I
and
seen
the truck,
39 before.
yeah, the truck always had more in it. I think I was always into clipping a little bit too hard for park and pound. You know, that 30 seconds, it's it tears up stuff pretty quick. So,
Oh yeah. Joe wants to know if you're going to come down to the Indiana 4X or up. I'm not exactly
yep,
sure where you're at there.
that's Marion, right? For the
Yeah.
Eastern 4X. Yeah, I think we'll be there. Not sure about the bourbon or not. You know, if I bring it out now, it's just kind of to play around with.
For
finish
sure.
it up. But yeah, we're
Uh,
gonna be there.
I saw a little bit earlier. I think I didn't really miss it because I'm going to ask you now, but it's up there in the comments somewhere. Somebody asked, "What all do you have in your dueling demos build?"
Oh yeah. Well, long list of stuff. I mean, that's the McLaren speakers is like God 1610s, not including the extras that I put in right before finals last year. You know, with the window pods and everything. Um, God, 30, 30 some eights, and I think 30 some six and a halves. It's about 90 plus on the mids.
Okay.
Uh, I always knew that. And then about six horns. Uh, Gosh, I've changed amps around multiple times. Just MD8K for the tens, the 16K for the subs, obviously. Terra amps, 4000 by 4 for the front doors. Smart 3 for six and a halves. Shoot, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I've tried to add more and more and more, and last season there, that was our big thing, was really try to just give it our all and see what we could get, and it panned out pretty good. I didn't have as much time on the tuning as I wanted, but it worked out for us. So I'm happy with it.
Well, like I told you, when you turned it on there at finals, that was the best I'd heard it sound since you had it, and I've been listening to that one for a little while.
A
So,
lot of people said it. And, it was one of those. I finally didn't have no little hiccups or anything along the way or played the wrong song. Or,
right.
I know I've had a lot of those throughout even last year alone. Um, so, yeah, I mean, we really learned a lot. And, I'm hoping it's Wendy's turn this time. So
Okay.
we're hoping to get her. We're hoping to get her going here soon. Just couldn't tell you when. And she it's let's see what she can do. So
That was going to be my next question. If did you plan on staying around the same classes? You got any new goals? You going to add anything? What's
you
the
know,
what's the
her car, her car could probably go either way. It could go down a class, or I'm sure she could go extreme, which for her starting off is a little much. So
right?
we'll probably see how the car does and just kind of let her play with it, see how she does. So
So Joe said, "What class is she going to do?" I'm guessing modified of some sort.
we'd be doing demos, whether it's extreme or let's see, Melinda's class, which I don't know if they would ever do that as friends. I don't want to
Right.
step
Yeah.
on anybody's
That's always
toes.
the hard part.
Yeah, nobody wants to step on anybody else's toes. We want to see everybody get loud and um,
For
you
sure.
know just have fun with it.
Right.
That's the main point. Have fun with it, or don't let the competition get to you. So my
Oh. He froze on me. There.
am I back?
You're back now. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I seen something about reconnecting. So my first year, I think I took it pretty hard and pretty rough. It really, put a little hurting on me, but it just in another way it pushed me also come back better, come back stronger. Uh,
Right.
you know, so like I say,
Yeah,
we
I
won't
mean,
worry.
all of the competition stuff can be difficult. I mean, I came up as a competitor, pretty much. Kind of like we were kind of going back and forth a little earlier. You're telling me, you never really expected to kind of, turn it into what it's turned into for you, and I never really expected to be sitting in this chair talking to you either. So, I guess that's, I guess that's,
Yeah,
I guess that's two of us, but you
yeah,
know. Um, at the end of the day, like I always try to tell everybody, there's always winners and losers, but it's the moments that you get to share with your friends and the people that mean something really at the end of the day. Through the triumphs and the failures. I
Yep.
mean, it
Yep.
seems like every year I cry with somebody, or at least shed a tear with them, and it's either because I'm happy for them or because I'm upset because something had to happen that not anybody wants to happen or whatever. But
So
it's just part of it. It's just a
life,
giant dysfunctional family.
life hits us all in different ways, and hope the best for everybody, and and when we do get out to have fun, let's have fun. That's what it's about. We all enjoy what we do. So that's what
Right,
gets us away from our day to day normal shit. So,
for
uh,
sure.
yeah, like Wendy said, memories made. And I see Jeremy Cox asked, "What's it like to be awesome amp repairman with a killer build?" Well, I still find out that there's always somebody louder, but I mean, with that, like I say, it's still fun. That's what keeps you pushing to get louder. Um, as far as being the amp repair guy, man, I love seeing everybody just run the lanes. I've helped them. That's great to see them still out there getting in the lanes. They're not talking about how they're waiting a year get their amp back or whatever. So, um, yeah, it's just fun. I'm glad I could be a part of it, and yeah, I think it's helped people learn who I am. I went
Right.
from a nobody to somebody, and I still consider myself a nobody, but I mean, hey, I'm here to help any way I can. So
That's awesome, man. So I guess I asked you what the average cost was. Now, so what's like the average turnaround time? Is it just vary on the amp they send you, or
yeah, I mean, there's the good and the bads. There's a lot of them that, like I say, if things go well for me, and it depends how much I actually go to work. I do work construction, so summertime, whatever, we're normally just working a lot of hours, and things slow down for me. And then on the weekends you got the competitions, so sometimes it's really hard to find any extra time.
for
Uh,
sure,
Still, with that, I really try to make sure that it's within the first couple weeks, and if not the month. And there is a few handful of people out there, and if you're in here, I'm sorry, but their amps have been on the back burner because they're got some weird issue that just takes a little more time to figure them out. You get stuck on them, you got to put them aside because you'll tear into them more and more and more, thinking you're going to find it, and you set it aside, get a clear head, come back at it another day. So
what's the most amps you've received from one customer at one time?
well, he's probably up there on the list, as one of those. Gosh, I'm trying to think. I got a guy in Ohio brings me a bunch. Randall Ritchie and his guys, I've done a bunch for them. Um, so yeah, I think Michael brought me about 13 amps at one time, and I had most of them knocked out fairly quickly, except for a couple of his big ones. So, um,
What do you
yeah.
think of a
um,
Stetson Flex 8K? I had a flame shoot out of one at Sunday show.
well, like I say, I don't want to put any brand down. Stetson is one of those. I don't get a lot of them. Um,
I was gonna say I've had some pretty good luck with them, but I haven't really used any of their bigger ones like 3 and 5Ks. And for what they do pretty stout power for what they are. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like I said, all of them can be volatile at times, I suppose. But
yeah. I mean, I've seen that even with a 4 channel where that thing shot flames out of it, and it was just a 4 channel, and it's like,
right,
man, holy hell. But you can get that with a lot of amps, different brands. So Stetson is really, they're really standing up with their, what is it, 2 year warranty, I think.
Uh-huh.
1 year exchange and 2 year repair, I think, is what it is. So um, I don't know. They're pretty similar to a Terramps. Um, so
I would
I
I would imagine a lot of them are fairly similar. You
yeah,
probably got a little bit different part or a little bit different setup on the board. I
yeah.
would
Well, like a
think.
Stetson and Terramps, they're same like MOSFETs and stuff, but they might be built just a little bit
Right.
different. Same kind of drivers. Very, a lot of similarities. You see that in a lot of amps.
Oh yeah.
So,
I don't know what they did with it or if it still exists or not, but there used to be a web page or a site that was called Realm of Excursion, I think, and it had they had a section on there called Amp Guts, and this is back, I don't know,
when
probably
forums
15 years, like when
when
forums was a
forums and stuff were a big thing, yeah.
and they would literally have like all these different brands of amps with the backs busted open and showing
You
like
know,
how they're basically the same thing.
I used to do that. I used to look at those all the time because that's what I was always, I was always that kid tearing things apart, trying to fix it. So when
I kind
amps
of
and
was too, but I didn't mess with amps very long. I found out pretty quick that wasn't my cup of tea.
stuff, some days I wonder if it's mine. I'm like, well, this, it gives me a headache sometimes, but I always seem to figure them out. So yeah, Timpanos, basically another Stetson Terra amps, type of amp. So, um, gosh, what's another one I was just thinking of? Corsus. I think I've seen some guys run some of them Corsus amps, and they love them. But to me, I thought they just seemed kind of cheaply made, cheap little gain knobs and stuff like that. But um, I think somebody actually won some kind of a world record with the Corsus 15Ks. God, I can't
Yeah,
remember his name.
I think Alan Dante might use them still. I'm not sure. I know
Yeah.
I've tested them and I, yeah, I tested them and yeah. I
Yeah.
as far as power and stuff, when they worked, they did it, but you know they weren't they were very, I didn't keep using them because they were very volatile. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. We all want that amp to last right along with work and do its numbers, maybe even do, a little more. Seems like a lot of people now, especially in in our competition type stuff, everybody's pushing the limits. They want more voltage, they want lower ohms, squeeze every little bit of power.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so that's amps are going to have a failure at some point, just the way we run them. So,
Oh yeah.
but
I mean, I agree with that statement too. But I might have broke about 8 of them in one day. But anyways, maybe.
uh,
I didn't want to happily admit that, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's like me saying, I'm the amp repair guy, and I still have my fuck ups too. So,
Oh
uh,
yeah. I don't do it a whole lot anymore. So when I do it, it's like, oh, you just got too complacent. But
yeah, yeah, we get comfortable, and then that's when you make a mistake. uh, like I say, I've learned a lot, over the time. Not only just repairing amps, tuning builds, putting amps in, and setting them to clip point. I was always curious with like tear amps and stuff. How close are the clip lights to each other if you had like two base 20Ks and stuff like that. And I think it was Slam last year, William Figueroa and everybody, they all came here, and we tuned everybody's amps, stuff like that. And we we played around with it, and those two amps, believe it or not, were dead on with using a scope. And we were amazed at how well, just by setting the AC voltage out, that how close they were.
Right.
So those are things, curiosity. I love doing all that. It just
Do you tune by ear or do you use an RTA?
I'll I try to take my scope out a lot, but it's dragging an extension cord and of course ripping my scope off my desk and taking it out there. And now I just kind of know, I think 165 is about where my 16Ks clip. So I'd always be 160 or under. I know I'm normally good. So
Right.
uh, kind of the wing it method.
I know that something that I mean I don't have a O scope, so I mean I don't really know the, but just as a theory, like it seems more prevalent to me with like I said, I don't want to knock on any brand or anything, but like when you're using multiple amplifiers that don't have phasing, do you ever find it a problem to get them to work together
Well,
properly?
that's what we were kind of after with like the two Teraamps 20Ks, because
Hmm.
they don't have phase. I think they got a high pass and low pass.
Right.
And if you have a scope there, you can play with the high pass in a way of like your
Okay.
your phasing, and bring them together. But like I say, his was dead on. I mean, they weren't really off by much. Now, whether we just happened to get lucky that day, I don't know. I've never really tried it again.
Right.
So, but those are things I was always, I'm always curious of that kind of stuff. So,
And I
uh,
think so. Nick said I'm referring to tuning for dueling demos. So I guess he's talking about like if an RTA meter. So like one of them
oh,
things that
you know, I,
reads
I
frequencies and
tried it.
stuff.
Yeah, last year I bought the mic. I watched a ton of videos, and I bought a few different DSPs, and I really played with them a lot. And the RTA mic, it's really hard to understand. Like, I can see, okay, where it's falling off, where it's peaking, and I never really understood when you get those little spikes, in between your ranges. A lot of guys on the videos would say you cut it out, for like SQL and whatnot. And I would
Right. Right.
try it, and then I would re-mic it again, and it seems like it never really ever really did anything in my opinion. So, and I don't think it was enough on a 360 build that it's ever anything that you're going to really pick up. That could be where I'm still, you know, still new at a lot of that. But
Right.
like I said, we ran out of time. My tuning for MECA finals was kind of more on an ear thing, and just walked around and kept just changing it on my own. Um, so yeah, and I guess I didn't do too bad. It sounded good. I think there was times that, I would hear something that it was just like, oh, I wish I had more time to work on that area in general.
Right. Right.
It worked and it played good. A lot of people said it definitely played better. So yeah, I'm hoping with Wendy's car, maybe something that's fresh, new speakers, just new build um, maybe that'll help me. So I've never really had any help tuning. That's been um, me and a few buddies just talking about it, trying stuff, and sitting in the garage here and just taking a panel out of the car and sit it here with some amps and just play with it. So
Right.
um, yeah, I'd love to get with some guys one day on tuning. I know a
Yeah.
couple lives back we had I can't think of his name, but he said he would help people out with learning how to tune and stuff. And I was like, man, I need to reach out to him because I'd
It
love
was
to get some.
maybe Matt or Geoff, or Jeff. I'm sorry, Jeff or Matt, Tony. I mean, there's a few guys that if you could get to talking to them, they could probably help you out a little bit with that stuff because they're a little bit more SQ oriented type, so they might they probably know some tricks of the trade there on how to knock some of that stuff out that you're seeing or
Yeah,
hearing
yeah,
or whatever. You know, I know Tony helps a lot of the Florida guys, and they usually they have a they I don't want to say it's a different sound, but they have a sound that it's basically perfected to an extent. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
I've
Like,
always said if I could just go down there and watch Tony tune something for a day, I said I'd try to pick his ear all day. But I'm sure you got to have some deep pockets to probably get in with like that with him, and I'm sure he's got his own stuff to that keeps him pretty occupied
yeah,
and busy.
I
So
mean, I could twist his arm a little bit.
yeah. Well, that's my next thing. We wanted to get down to Florida, and see a lot of them guys down there that do um, their dueling demos down there, and they have a few of them other contests they do down there.
Oh yeah,
Smokey's told me a lot about that, and we've been dying to get down there and see how they do it.
right.
Them guys get super loud, and they bring them little cars to life. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. What kind of mids would you suggest?
Mids that fit. Just, that's Mark. I had to mess with him. I don't know on a brand. Ciara is really, really standing out really quick. They've definitely came around. I don't know how long they've been around. I just know, Jeff's done a good job. Is it Jeff or Geoff?
It's Jeff. I just call him G off because he
Geoff,
spells it with the
because
G.
the way he spelled, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I know he's done a great job, getting people out there with it, and like Daryl Nova's doors and stuff sound amazing. I've told Daryl myself, from one year to the next, how much of a difference his car has sounded, just going from PRV to CRA. So that's a big, big change. I'm dying to hear Chad Bleak's build. I don't know if he's got that going yet, but
I think he finally got his processor today, so hopefully it'll be. I think he's planning on hopefully having it playing halfway right for the Easter show. Hopefully.
see, and that's I'm still kind of up and down on like a good processor like DSP. SQ guys will tell you Helix, and there's Mooseway, which I think is kind of big in MECA.
Yeah, we they're one of our sponsors, but
Yep.
I mean there's all kinds of them out there. But yeah, the Museway stuff, it's pretty nice. Matt knows his way around that stuff pretty good up there in Michigan. He's not far past he's right there in Niles, so it's not far over the Indiana line there. I think he deals with that stuff, and he's a pretty good tuner and things like that as well. So that might be somebody. Where about? How far up in Indiana are you, Chris?
I'm let's see. I think Cass County was 3 hours for us, maybe.
Okay, so he's
So,
basically like maybe 15 minutes away from there.
oh wow. Okay.
It
Yeah.
probably a little bit closer, but 15 or 20 minutes from there. It's not far. He's not far. Like if you go to South Bend, you can get to his shop in like 15 or 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's not bad.
Uh,
Well, yeah, that'd be what I'd like to do, and pick those guys' ear for a bit, and
I mean, I don't.
hopefully,
They don't really got any big dueling demo stuff, but he's got sound quality car, and he
right.
knows his way around those pretty good.
And
Uh,
that's one thing that's definitely different on a tuning is a lot of videos and everything you're gonna find are all for inside the car, the for your
yeah,
time delay and everything. And here we're just trying to, make it where it sounds good no matter where you're standing outside of the vehicle. So
it's definitely a challenge, that's for sure. And
yeah,
it's it's not really as strict as sound quality either. I like to kind of refer to like when we train sound quality, it's kind of like the reference is supposed to be live music that's unamplified.
Yeah.
So that you're kind of looking for like what does the instrument really sound like? How does that person really sound when they sing? you know those types of things. And then like the way I kind of look at dueling demos is it's like a live concert that is amplified,
Yeah.
but you want it to not. I mean, if you've been to live concerts, I'm sure you've been to some that sound like duty and some that you're like, wow, that one, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But what's going on, Pops? Hogan, Mark, I'm sure I missed a bunch of people tonight, but how y'all doing? We've been on here for a little while now. Nacho Ant Man, I see you, my brother. Sorry, I'm doing a tattoo.
Sounds about like what he'd be doing. I told him one of these days I might have to do like an ant board or something on me. I said I don't have no tattoos, but I was like, if I was to do one, that's probably what it'd be.
I
So
didn't even know Hogan was a tattooer.
yeah, yeah. He tattooed that the old stinky ride of his. So he's put his art to work on that one.
Oh
So
yeah. Well, I guess we've been on here about an hour and 15 minutes. You guys got any other questions for Mr. Chris? I'm trying to think if I've got any. I mean, I know I'll have one more at least. I don't think I missed any of my other ones. I think we got through most of it. Yeah, you're pretty good for that, Hogan.
yeah, he missed out when I was, talking all good about him. How I had to chase him at Cass County. Of course, we still laugh about it to today. So I told him
That,
he killed one of my amps, and making me chase him. So we were so close in points, or our scores were so close that we each kept going back up there and just hitting it again, and so it's fun. I learned a lot and still have a lot to learn. So
Philip Schleybaugh says for you to hit him up,
yeah, I'm
unless
sure
he's talking. He said Chris, so I was going to
he's
say
got a
unless he's
couple.
talking.
He's got a couple amps that've been sitting here for a minute. I'm sure he's worried about
Uh,
them, but they're not really
he said
worried or wondering. So.
your stuff's not fixable, Philip.
He brought me those daggone down for sound amps, so we won't talk about those.
Who is your favorite competitor? Hmm.
Oh, well, I mean, if that guy would actually compete, it'd probably be him. We have a lot of fun just going to parking lots and just I'll play a song, and before I get done, he tries to drown me out, and then I'll find a new song and I'll try to drown him out, and it's just that back and forth fun, and it builds
Right.
up the crowd, and that's what we like to do. So if we're not at a MECA show, we're at a parking lot, trying to have some fun.
I hear that. I need to find me some more parking lots.
Hey, and Hogan, you got to retire it as a winner. I don't want to bring it back out and lose any bragging rights with that one.
Let's see.
When am I going to be loud? Well, I mean, depends who's loud. Are we talking RP's loud or Dave Wilmstat loud? I'm a quietly loud. I'll probably
There you
stay that
go.
way. Yeah, yeah,
Well, I appreciate you, Chris, for coming on and hanging out with me this evening.
yeah.
I guess I'll go ahead and let you pick the next victim. Well,
Uh,
actually, I think it'll be the next victim because I was going to bring Tony Economou on, and he had something to do. So then you was second. So now I'll think I'll have Tony next week, and then the next person that you pick will come the next week, unless he stands me up again. But
okay. Well, I was thinking Rob Morgan. I love his motorcycle build, and it's very clean. It's the system sounds pretty good. I'd love to bring my bike out just to give him some competition, give him something to push him a little bit more, and maybe we'll start seeing some more bikes at the MECA shows. So
Mr. Robert Morgan, I'll be sending him a message. I don't know if he watches or not, but we'll send him a message and see if we can get him on here with us.
yeah,
He was a motorcycle dueling demos champion, and I believe show and shine champion as well. Um, and like Chris was saying, we don't have a whole lot of motorcycles that come out right this second, but that's something I'd like to start seeing more motorcycles, so we could try to start maybe kind of molding that division a little bit towards what they like. I know that's probably part of the problem is it might not be necessarily what they're used to seeing or whatever in the rule book, but I need them to come out so we can figure out what it is that they do want and like. And then hopefully we can see some more bikes coming out, even slingshots. We got places for those guys, golf carts, all that stuff. So the more the merrier on that one.
yeah, for sure,
uh,
sure.
so we'll
Some people
definitely.
have some pretty neat looking builds, as far as slingshots, bikes. They've got some pretty neat looking rides that'd be cool to see.
Yeah, they had a few of them. When we were down in Alabama last weekend, there was several of them that came in and out of the parking lot, and I couldn't talk none of them into doing it, but there was a couple of them that had quite a few speakers hanging on them.
Yeah, I've seen some. Yeah, and they put speakers everywhere on them things. So, well, yeah, it's been fun. Glad we could get me on here tonight. That was, I knew my time was coming, and it's great to be able to talk about it. So, looking forward to getting out there to more shows.
All right, I'll see if I can shoot you a message there, Mister McGraw. Again, Chris Gordon, I appreciate it. You got any last things you want to tell the folks? I'll go ahead and let you sign off, and then I'll end the live here. I guess we'll be on almost an hour and a half, but it was really good talking to you. I think it went well. We got to answer a few questions, and
Yeah,
if you did miss it, you can go back and watch it. I think it was probably worth watching. So, uh, Mr. Chris Gordon, Extreme Dueling Demos World Champion 2024 or five, I guess four. It was four. Here I am. I don't know my it's from a hole in the ground, but anyways, um, and also if you didn't know, he repairs amps, so now you know. And
yep,
I'll
yep,
let you go ahead and tell the folks bye. And if you see any other questions on there, you can answer them, and then we'll get ready to end this thing, man. I appreciate you.
yeah, yeah. You guys have a good night. It's been fun, and keep them amps playing. If you have any issues, find me on Facebook or whatnot. Ask around. Somebody will get you to me. So with that, have a good night. See you guys at the shows.
Thanks, Chris. We'll see you soon, man. All right, so that was Mr. Chris Gordon. Appreciate everybody coming on, hanging out with us, answering the questions. It was fun this evening. We got to answer quite a few of them, I think, and I thought it was pretty good live. It was really nice chatting with Mr. Gordon there. Um, MECA appreciate you, all the champions, all the other folks. We appreciate all the competitors, and we finally got the season kicked off here, and it seems to be rolling pretty good. So I'm looking forward to a good season. We got a show coming up this weekend in Bay City, Michigan. 2X, get out there and see Mr. Mike Smith this weekend. Other than that, keep your eyes peeled. Should have the World Finals announcement out here within the week, I'd say. I was hoping it'd be tonight, but I held up for just a little bit to make sure everything's lined up good before I stick my foot in my mouth. Again, the sound quality will be there in Birmingham, and sound pressure is going to end up having to be somewhere else again this year. We couldn't get it worked out with the venue again. I got an email about that. I think it was Sunday or Monday, but anyway, so backup plan it is, and I already had it in motion, so we just got a little bit to hammer it down, and I should be able to tell you guys what the deal is. Thanks, Andy. Anybody has any questions? It looks like Shannon put her number up there. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Shoot us a text, message on Facebook. If you have problems with the website, again, that is still not 100%. We're still working on it. So if you do see a problem with your points or something like that, don't necessarily freak out, but you could go ahead and send me a message. That way, if it does happen to fall through the cracks or something, we don't miss it. But I'm hoping that we have most of that stuff pretty much fixed here by the end of the month. And I think that's pretty much all of it for now. So I appreciate everybody hanging out with me tonight. Again, appreciate Mr. Gordon coming on and talking with us and spreading a little bit of knowledge. We've had a few good live shows here. They will be up on Facebook until they take them down, and then YouTube, as far as I know, forever. So if you need to go back and watch them, feel free to go check them out. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, like and follow the page for me. And until next time, keep it loud and clear.